Okay, let's talk about the Western Asian region, Israel and Gaza and all that. So the question is by Shivam. What will Israel do next after Yahya? Do you think they're going to attack Iran? They did. If they do attack Iran, then will Russia be involved in this matter? Will Russia get involved in this? And Brijesh says, will Russia support Iran directly if Israel goes to war with Iran? Right? Okay, that's the question. So what's going on? That latest terrorist was killed recently. Yahya, his name or whatever his name is, the Hamas boss. He was taken out by a tank shell and so on. So what we are seeing is the decapitation of the leadership of Hamas by Israel. They're doing a very effective job at completely taking out the leadership structure of Hamas. And they've also obviously completely terrorized Hamas with the pager attack and all that, those remote control attacks. So it's like Hamas is very much on the back foot right now. And Hamas's biggest supporter is obviously Iran. Iran is a nation that punches way above its weight. It is a nation that is geopolitically very ambitious, very active. It has proxies all over the Middle East, Western Asian region, and so on. And Iran, as we know, regards two nations as its greatest adversaries with good reason. First is the US, United States. Iran calls the United States Shaitan e Bozorg, the great Satan. And the Americans have imposed sanctions and all kinds of things on Iran since essentially 1979. And the people of Iran have suffered tremendously as a consequence. It's siege warfare in the modern day. So one can understand why they consider the Americans to be so evil. And America's number one supporter or supportee, whatever you want to say, is Israel. And Iran considers it to be its number two enemy or interchangeably number one. The Zionist regime, they call it, right? Uh, and Iran, perhaps by now, probably is a nuclear weapons power. There was that anomalous earthquake that happened somewhere in northern Iran, which is a region where you typically don't have earthquakes. Richter 4 or something on the Richter scale, which is very strange. So I personally consider Iran to be the 10th nuclear power now. And that's a problem for Israel because Israel is an undeclared nuclear power and it used to be the trump card. Now, if Iran also has nukes, then it's a big problem for Israel. And the whole deterrence scenario changes drastically. So, and we have had all these tensions between Iran and Israel, those drone strikes, missile strikes. The latest missile strike happened not too long ago. About 200 missiles were launched by Iran on Israel, and a lot of them hit their targets. And a lot of them carried rather small payloads, warheads, conventional warheads. But that kind of sends a signal. And they were able to bypass the Iron Dome system that Israel has, which is one of the most sophisticated anti-missile ballistic missile defense systems, and so on. And recently, just 2 or 3 days ago, Iran hit Mr. Netanyahu's residence with a drone strike. And we're not sure if Mr. Netanyahu was there or not. But it's a direct assassination attempt on the Prime Minister of Israel. So, look, with all this as the context, it's pretty clear that Israel is going to respond in some way sometime soon, or sooner or later. And recently, there was a leak out of the Pentagon. Clearly, there's some kind of a mole inside the Pentagon, but the Israeli plans to attack attack Iran were some portion of that was leaked out, a couple of pages of the thing. So I think they're going to attack Iran at some point in time, at a time and place of their choosing, like you say, like they say. So the question now is, if the Israelis launch a significant attack on Iran, the question is Israel going to do this alone or will the US also be involved? If the US is going to be involved, it's going to be involved from the sea, aircraft carrier strike groups. Is the US confident enough that it can take on Iran from an aircraft carrier? Iran has excellent missiles. So there's a whole lot of questions out there in the open. But let's say Israel attacks Iran in some way, airstrike, missile strike, whatever. What happens then? Uh, they could target Iran's nuclear development sites where its nuclear weapons program is being developed, or civilian nuclear program, whatever it is being developed. It has various nuclear installations and sites. Those could be targeted. Uh, that could happen, and even the Iranian leadership could be targeted in Tehran because they tried to target Mr. Netanyahu. So tit for tat, that sort of thing could happen. So the question is, what happens if Israel does this, if they attack Iran? Will Iran be on its own, or will there be some kind of Russian involvement? Chinese involvement is more or less out of the question, because the map tells us that China is way too far away for to be able to take any real action. Okay, but Russia isn't too far away. It's just let's say about, well, less than 500 kilometers away, Russian territory from Iran. So, and Iran has been supporting Russia in its special military operation in Ukraine. Iran has been supplying Russia with drones, Shahed 2 drones, and various other kinds of weaponry. So, one can expect some kind of quid pro quo from Russia. Russia is in the process of selling a bunch of sophisticated fighter planes to Iran. I think the Sukhoi 57, which is the latest one they have, the fifth generation one. And is it the Sukhoi 57? Is it the Sukhoi 35? I'm not sure which one, but it's going to be selling a bunch of pretty good fighter planes to Iran. And maybe it may get involved in some way in the defense of Iran if Iran is on the back foot. So it's all speculation right now, but I would expect some kind of Russian involvement in some manner if there is an attack on Iran from Israel. But obviously, this is all speculation. I don't have the real intelligence, the real evidence as to what is being planned. But it makes sense strategically and logically for Russia to come to the aid of Iran. Iran is an important asset for Russia and China to have in the West Asia region. If Iran falls or gets defeated, then it completely changes the power dynamics in the region, the geopolitical balance of power, and it gives the United States and Israel and the West a tremendous upper hand in this region. And the strategic pact or agreement that China has signed with Iran becomes null and void. A 25-year strategic agreement in which China is going to invest at least $400 billion worth of money into Iran in exchange for a very large quantity of discounted energy, which is petroleum, more or less, mainly. So Russia and China need Iran to continue to exist and remain strong in the region. So I think from that perspective, it makes logical sense for both of the nations in some way or the other to come to the aid of Iran. And Russia is much more in a position to be able to do this at short notice. So probably some kind of involvement from Russia will happen, especially if Iran goes on the back foot. That's what I think will happen.